The notorious RBG is gone, leaving behind an empty Supreme Court seat and a huge fight over the court's future. Welcome back to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Last week, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at the age of 87. Ginsburg was known for being a pioneering women's rights lawyer, the second woman ever to be appointed to the Supreme Court, and the only Supreme Court justice too short to ride the roller coasters at Six Flags. In the last few years, Ginsburg also became a pop culture icon and internet meme, the Notorious RBG. Wait, RBG and Grumpy Cat? Just when I think I understand internet culture, I get confused all over again. Tributes to RBG poured in, some from unlikely sources.
She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life.
Wow, okay. But enough of recognizing our common humanity. Bring on the partisan death match, because it's less than 2 months until the presidential election. And now there's an empty seat on the Supreme Court to fill. Or as Democrats are saying, to absolutely not fill.
And by all rights, by every modicum of decency and honor, Leader McConnell and the Republican Senate majority have no right to fill it. No right.
Of the remaining 8 justices on the Supreme Court, 5 were appointed by Republican presidents and 3 were appointed by Democrats. Democrats are not thrilled about President Trump getting to appoint another justice. That's why Democrats are trying to stop Trump from filling that seat. Meanwhile, the Republicans are saying that the president has an obligation to fill the seat, which, if you remember, is what happened back in 2016, except the opposite. In early 2016, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia passed away. President Obama nominated Merrick Garland, but Republicans controlled the Senate, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell refused to consider Garland's nomination at all. The Supreme Court seat remained empty until 2017, when President Trump took office and nominated Neil Gorsuch. McConnell's action to block Obama's Supreme Court nominee was hugely controversial. People called it unprecedented. Technically, there were precedents, but you'd have to go back to the 19th century to find them. Mitch McConnell argued in 2016 that the American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president. I'm sure he won't regret that later. Meanwhile, Democrats, like then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, argued that the president has a responsibility to nominate a new justice and the Senate has a responsibility to vote. I'm sure she won't regret that later. So the Republicans and Democrats are having the same argument in 2016 and 2020, but from opposite sides, which means that politicians get to do their favorite thing, accuse each other of being fat hypocrites. Who's a hypocrite? Why not both? But although the 2016 and 2020 situations are similar, they're not exactly the same. For example, Obama nominated Garland 8 months before the presidential election, while Trump will be nominating someone less than 2 months before the election. Obama was at the end of his second term, while Trump is at the end of his first term and could still be reelected. And Obama was dealing with a Senate controlled by the opposing party, while Trump and McConnell are on the same side. And the Senate vote is, of course, the deciding factor. Back in 2016, Senator McConnell was making 2 arguments. One, that the Senate shouldn't confirm a new justice in an election year. And 2, that Obama was a president whose priorities and policies Americans just rejected in the most recent national election. In other words, McConnell was saying that blocking Garland was justified because Americans had given control of the Senate to Republicans in the 2014 midterm elections, creating a divided government. and so they should wait until after the 2016 election to see which party the voters wanted in power. Now, I'm not saying he was right, but practically speaking, Republicans had the power to block Garland, and so they did. It's historically difficult for a president to get the Senate to confirm an election year Supreme Court nomination if the Senate is controlled by the other party. It's only happened 2 out of 10 times. But when the president and the Senate are from the same party, election year Supreme Court nominations have been confirmed 17 out of 19 times. So the odds are looking pretty good for President Trump, who's already said that he's going to nominate someone, specifically a woman.
I thought a woman would be very important right now for the Supreme Court, so I'll be choosing a woman.
And enough Republican senators have said that they will support a confirmation vote that it could happen before Election Day. And for that, Trump should really thank the Democrats. That's because you used to need more than 60 votes in the Senate to confirm a judicial appointment. Otherwise, it could be blocked with the filibuster. Filibusters are frustrating when you control the Senate, but don't control it enough to have 60 votes. So in 2013, the Democrats, under Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, triggered the nuclear option to eliminate most filibusters on presidential nominees. That meant federal judicial nominees and executive office appointments can advance to confirmation votes by a simple majority of senators, rather than the 60-vote supermajority that has been the standard for nearly 4 decades. The change was so significant that Reid and his leadership team held a victory party with liberal activists afterward, in a room just off the Senate floor. So the Democrats triggered the nuclear option so they could confirm President Obama's judicial nominees with just 51 votes. I'm sure they won't regret that later. Ironically, the whole idea of filibustering judicial nominees was started back in 2003 by Senate Democrats, who used it to block several George W. Bush nominees. Sounds like they might have regretted that later. But once the Democrats triggered the nuclear option, Republicans used it too once they got the Senate majority. That's how they confirmed Trump's 2 previous Supreme Court nominees. And it's how they'll confirm whoever Trump nominates, probably before Election Day. That's the problem with changing the rules. Then the other side can do it too. So right now, it looks like the Democrats are largely powerless to stop the GOP from confirming Trump's court choice. But the battle for the Supreme Court isn't over. It's just beginning, and I'll tell you why after the break. Welcome back. The battle for the Supreme Court won't end even after the Senate approves Trump's nominee. Once the Senate does confirm her, out of the 9 justices on the court, 6 will have been appointed by Republicans and only 3 by Democrats. Democrats won't like this. They're afraid it means the court could do things like overturn Roe v. Wade, the ruling in 1973 that basically legalized abortion across the country. So now some Democrats are talking about the idea of what's called packing the court. If getting rid of the filibuster was the nuclear option, packing the court is being called Democrats' Armageddon option. I assume because packing the court is like packing a nuclear weapon into an asteroid. Court packing is adding more judges to a court than there are now, something that can be done on the federal level simply by passing a law. That's because the Constitution doesn't specify how many justices should be on the Supreme Court, and there haven't always been 9. Historically, there have been as few as 5 and as many as 10. But 9 has been the number for the last 151 years. But some Democrats are now calling to change that. I'm sure they won't regret that later. Now, expanding the Supreme Court is not a new idea. It came up during the Democratic primaries. Several candidates said they were open to it. But it's getting new momentum now.
If they do this, the Democrats will be well within their rights to expand the Supreme Court, because the Constitution doesn't have a fixed number, and we've had 10 justices in the past. They'd be well within their rights to expand it to 13 or 15 or even 17 to nullify these games. Nobody should be playing games with the Supreme Court. If the Republicans do so, the Democrats will have weapons available to them.
I'm not sure that's the best talking point. The Republicans shouldn't play games because the Democrats have weapons. Expanding the Supreme Court from 9 to 15 justices sounds extreme, but it's been tried before, by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In 1937, FDR was frustrated that the Supreme Court kept blocking his New Deal legislation as unconstitutional. So he tried to send a bill through Congress that would allow him to appoint as many as 6 new Supreme Court justices. The bill was unpopular even with some of FDR's fellow Democrats, and ultimately failed in Congress. So it didn't work before, and not all Democrats support the idea. Even RBG didn't support it.
I have heard that there are some people on the Democratic side who would like to increase the number of judges. Well, if anything would make the court appear partisan, it would be that. One side saying, when we're in power, we're going to enlarge the number of judges, so we will have more people who will vote the way we want them to.
To actually expand the Supreme Court, Biden would have to win the election, and Democrats would have to control both the House of Representatives and the Senate. But even if that happened, would Biden do it? He wasn't a fan of the idea during the primaries.
I would not get into court packing. We had 3 justices. Next time around, we lose control. They had 3 justices. We began to lose any credibility for the court has at all.
But now, Biden is facing growing Democratic calls to expand the Supreme Court. So, he could possibly be pressured to change his mind. But the partisan court-packing debate is just a symptom of the increasing partisan problem in the U.S. government in general. It works like this. As Congress grows more partisan, it's harder for it to pass laws, which leaves more and more controversial issues to be decided by the Supreme Court, which leads to accusations of legislating from the bench, which in turn makes the issue of picking new Supreme Court justices more partisan because each party wants to get more of their team on the Supreme Court, which then becomes a huge issue in the presidential elections, and that increases the partisan deadlock in Congress. And now, we're stuck in an infinite loop. Now, some proponents of packing the court say it will actually stop the partisanship and depoliticize the court. But would it actually work out that way? The recent judicial nomination fights show us that every time one party breaks a norm, the other party will too. And they often regret that later. But they keep doing it. It's like how I feel after I eat a bowl of nacho-flavored deep-fried pizza bagels. But I keep doing it. So while there are still 9 justices on the Supreme Court for now, I look forward to welcoming the Supreme Court justices of 2051, all 5,433 of them. So what do you think of the Supreme Court battle? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like the show, you can support what we do on the crowdfunding website Patreon. For as little as $1 an episode, you can help us keep the show going. Visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered to learn more. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.